Okay, Ji, welcome back in our second Zoom meeting. And we are talking about integrating strategy and culture. And we discussed that there are certain cultural products, which includes values, beliefs, rights, rituals, and the rest of these variables. And now we're going to start its detail. When we talk about rights, it would mean planned set of activities that consolidate various forms of cultural expressions into one event. Okay, I repeat again. When we say rights, it would mean planned set of activities that consolidate various forms of cultural expressions into one event. Okay, and we're going to see that what are the rights associated with our organization and how those rights are our strengths or their absence can be our weakness. I'll be telling you the further examples of every term, but let's first of all look at the detail that what each word would actually mean. When we say ceremonial, it would mean several rites connected together, the different ceremonies which the organization would celebrate with the passage of time, like its anniversary. Then ritual, when we use this expression, it would mean a standardized set of behaviors used to manage anxieties. Okay, and there can be even religious rituals. Then the myth would mean a narrative or imagined events, usually not supported by facts. And I'll be telling you that how to conduct the audit of all these things. When we say saga, it would mean a historical narrative describing the unique accomplishments of a group and its leaders. And those historical narratives can be our strength or our weakness. When we say legend, it would mean a handed down narrative of some wonderful event, usually not supported by facts. Okay, and many a times there are many legends associated with an organizational facility, that how it developed, how it progressed, how it eventually ruled the world. So there are so many legends there which are there to describe an organizational culture. And those legends can obviously be derived from a story, which is a narrative usually based on true events. It can be a folk tale, which is a fictional story. Like, just think about the organizations, big even corporations. There are so many sagas, legends, story, myths associated with Coca-Cola, with Pepsi, with Procter & Gamble, with Unilever, with Nestle, with IBM, with Apple Macintosh. There are so many corporate world you can think about, and there are so many myths, there are so many sagas associated with these organizations. And when we say when we use the word symbol, it would mean any object, act, event, quality, or relation used to convey meaning. When we say language, that would mean the manner in which members of a group communicate. When we say metaphors, it means shorthand of words used to capture a vision or to reinforce old or new values. These are the metaphors. When we say values, that is life directing attitudes that serve as behavioral guidelines. When we say belief, it would mean an understanding of a particular phenomenon. And with the expression of heroes and heroines, we say individuals greatly respected in an organization. And sometimes those heroes and heroines can be the founders of an organization, the entrepreneur of an organization, and there can be certain strengths associated with those founders, their value systems, which are eventually creating the organizational core competencies and competitive advantage. When we integrate strategy and culture, your author says that organizational culture significantly affects business decisions and thus must be evaluated during an internal strategic management audit. Okay, so remember that cultural audit is very important. If strategies can capitalize on cultural strengths, such as a strong work ethic or a highly ethical beliefs, then management often can swiftly and easily implement changes. So as I told you earlier, during our discussion of mission, vision, and values, that values hold a very strong impact on an organizational development. And your strong work ethics and highly ethical beliefs, these are all derived from your ethical value systems. And those ethical value systems are basically the core of an organizational cultural context. Now let's look at how culture is also associated with a strategy. For example, with the current culture, in this diagram, I'm starting from the upper left corner. This is a decision tree you are looking at. And in that decision tree, we have to see that how the culture and how the strategy are compatible with one another. So when we say with the current culture, and we do cultural audit for that context. So remember, when we do cultural audit, we are concerned with structure and human audit. And in that structural and human audit, we'll be conducting the physical outlook discussion, hierarchy levels, departments, and the humans working in those hierarchy levels and departments in that particular facility, and the value system. So keeping in mind the whole picture, with the current culture, whatever is the culture of an organization, is the planned strategy compatible or not? Now, the planned strategy can be either backward vertical integration, it can be some diversification strategy, it can be market penetration, market development strategy, it can be product development strategy, it can be strategic alliance, it can be joint venture, it can be merger and acquisition. So there are so many strategic options we have, and we have to see that all these strategic options, are they applicable or operational in our current culture or not? If the answer is yes to this question, that the current culture is compatible with our planned strategy, then the situation is pretty simple, and it would say tie changes into the culture that implement the strategy, get the results, and finalize your outcomes. But supposedly that your current culture, either in terms of structure or human, is not compatible with your planned strategy, the answer is no. There is either cultural constraint or structural constraint or human constraint. So the next point would be, can the culture be modified to make it more compatible with the new strategy? So the obvious question is that if we have to implement the strategy, so can we change the culture? And to change the culture, either we have to change the structure or we have to change the human. Okay. Now, if you say that no, we cannot change the structure or we cannot change the human, so we'll move to the next box with a no. And the next box would say, is management still committed to implement the strategy? But supposedly, if we say that yes, we can change the culture to make it more compatible with the strategy, if the answer is yes to this question, so the next box would be, if the answer is yes, the next box would be, is management willing and able to make major organizational changes and accept probable delays and a likely increase in cost? That, as you said, that culture can be changed, can be modified to implement the strategy, which means that you are ready to change either the structure or the human. And if you have to change either the structure or the human, so that would definitely increase a time, and that would definitely increase the cost. So we have to see that do we have enough time and enough cost to change the culture to make it more compatible with the planned strategy. Now, if the answer is yes, that you do have some time and you do have some cost, so the next question would be, if the answer is even yes to this question, the next point would be manage around the culture, that now you have to change the culture, manage around the culture by establishing a new structural unit. As I told you, the culture would include structure and human. So it is suggested that when you say that you have time and you have cost, you have to manage around the culture by establishing a new structural unit to implement the new strategy. Okay, and by new structural unit, you need to have a new physical outlook, new departments, new hierarchy. It can be any change which you think is more feasible to make it more compatible with your strategy. And that would definitely incur a time and a cost frame. But supposedly if you say that yes, culture can be modified, but no, we do not have enough time and cost, and the answer is no to this point, and initially you also said that culture cannot be modified, again there is another no. So you would reach to the box which would say, is management still committed to implement the strategy? So you can obviously ask yourself one question, that if the strategy was not compatible with the structure or culture, that why would management would have thought about making a strategy? The answer would be that that strategy might be the only way to achieve your objectives, and that strategy can be only used to avail the opportunities in the environment. So that is the reason that you have to change the culture, and we are asking ourselves the question that is management still committed to implement the new strategy? If you say no, then formulate a different strategy which might be more compatible with your current culture. But if you say yes, that management is still committed to implement the strategy, the last box in the decision tree would be find a joint venture partner or contract with another company to carry out the strategy. So that is the only option you are left with, that you would do a joint venture with another organization which might have the culture incompatible, which is in compatibility with your planned strategy. And that is one of the major reasons that why companies go for joint ventures. Even historically speaking, you might have heard about a big joint venture between Sony and Ericsson. Okay, and they used to launch a mobile phone, which is Sony Ericsson joint venture mobile phone. So why do you think that Sony itself cannot make a mobile phone, or Ericsson itself cannot make a mobile phone? Because there might be some cultural incompatibility when they were thinking about product development or market development. So joint ventures is one of the strategic options we have when there is strategy culture incompatibility in-house. Okay. At the same time, there is another very interesting statistics about joint venture, and it says that 51% of the joint ventures around the world, they fail. Now that is very astonishing statistics, that 51% of joint ventures in the world, they fail. And why do they fail? There is only one big reason, and that one big reason of the failure of even joint venture can be cultural incompatibility. So now this would be very evident to you that why cultural compatibility needs to be investigated. Why do we need to go for cultural audit? And why do we need to study all these things in so much detail? When we talk about the power of culture in business, this statement comes in our mind by Julian Reynolds, who is CEO of Tom Peters Company, one of the chief consultants and one of the major organizations in American society which conduct the corporate consultations. And they say that imagine that your beautifully crafted strategy failed when the divisions within your organization clashed. It is just like, just to understand the concept, it is just like that the federal government decides a strategy of development and a provincial government is not agreeing to the decision of the federal government. So there creates a tie. So there is a clash, there is a conflict. Just like that, in the organizational facility, the same political phenomena can happen. That imagine that your beautifully crafted strategy failed when the divisions within your organization clashed. Logically, it seems that strategy should drive behavior, but in reality, it's your culture, underlying norms, values, belief systems that dictates how people are going to work together. As a result, employee behavior directly impacts your bottom line, your costs, revenue, productivity, customer base, even your brand. Every aspect of your business is affected. So this statement by Julian Reynolds clearly depicts that how much power a culture is having in the context of business discussion. Now, to conduct the cultural audit, the model we have is cultural web, which is developed by Johnson and Scholes. And that is the model just in front of you in the slide. As cultural dimensions, we'll be investigating stories, symbols, rituals and routines, power structure, organizational structure, and control mechanisms. When we talk about stories, it would mean what past events people talk about inside and outside the organization, success or failures. Who and what are heroes and heroines associated within our organization. And in the next slide, I'll be telling you how to conduct the audit of these aspects. In this particular slide, you need to look at the details of cultural web. And then I'll be telling you the audit questions. So when we talk about symbols, it would mean organizational semiotics, including logos, how grand the offices are, plus formal or informal dress codes. These are all the semiotics which actually represent an organizational facility. When we talk about rituals and routines, we'll be concerned with behavior and rules that signal importance. So what's supposed to happen in given situations and what's valued by management. When we say power structures, it would mean pockets of real power or influence or over decisions, operations, direction. This can include social power, lobbying, grouping. When we say organizational structural detail in cultural context, this includes the formal organizational structure. And remember that when we study the structural detail, we'll study structure in terms of three things: physical outlook, departments, and hierarchy. And when we talk about hierarchy, we have to keep in mind the 7 variables which discuss the hierarchy, which elaborates the details related with hierarchy. And those 7 variables are chain of command, span of control, lines of authority, centralization, formalization, flow of communication, departmentalization. So these are the 7 variables which are elaborating the structural detail in terms of hierarchy. I repeat again: chain of command, span of control, lines of authority, formalization, centralization, flow of communication, and departmentalization. So these are the 7 details you need to know about your hierarchy levels. And you have to see that what are the associated strengths and weaknesses related to these 7 elements, related to structure, related to culture. And obviously, it is not just the hierarchy. We need to study departmentalization as well. We need to talk about physical outlook as well, facility layout, that how the facility layout is being developed. Okay, so these details would be covered in due course of time in our chapter. So related to organizational structure, I repeat again, this includes the formal organizational structure and relationships that dictate whose contributions are most valued. When we talk about controls, either feedback controls, feed forward controls, or concurrent controls, when we talk about controls, the internal control systems relating to, for example, finance, performance quality, and rewards and salaries, and all the other mechanisms you do have in an organization. So these are the major aspects which Johnson and Scholes talk about in cultural web when you're going to conduct the cultural audit. These are the cultural audit questions. For example, related to stories, let's look at the number of questions we have. The first question is, what core beliefs do stories reflect? And are those core beliefs which stories reflect, are they demonstrated in an organizational facility or not? If they are not demonstrated in our organizational facility, that is a weakness. And if those core beliefs are demonstrated in our organizational facility, so that can be a strength. And no doubt, it would be a contextual discussion. It would be a subjective discussion. Look at the second question related to stories. How pervasive are these beliefs through levels? The third question, do stories relate to strengths or weaknesses? As I am repeatedly saying that the cultural audit is to be conducted to find out the list of opportunity, strengths and weaknesses. Opportunity threats are outside, strengths and weaknesses are inside. So do stories relate to strengths and weaknesses, success or failure, conformity or mavericks? Look at the next question. Who are the heroes and villains in an organization? So we'll be doing the audit and we'll be finding out that how things are associated with one another. And what norms do the mavericks deviate from? Okay, so these are all the questions related to the stories. And every organization, small, medium, or large, they have got their own stories. Every entrepreneurial venture, they have got their own stories. And we have to investigate those stories. When we talk about symbols, look at the questions related to symbols. That are there particular symbols which denote the organization? And the symbols is just related to the extended marketing mix point, physical evidence. As you know, when you talk about marketing mix, so related to marketing mix, in manufacturing concern, you talk about 4 P's, product, price, place, promotion. And in case of services, you talk about 7 P's, people, physical outlook, people, physical evidence, and processes. So related to physical evidence, we're talking about symbols. So are there particular symbols which denote the organization? It may include its logo, it may include its signage, it may include its the colors on the walls, the dress code people are wearing. So the symbol would also be studied in terms of what are the status symbols there. What does the language and jargon signify in that organization? What aspects of strategy are highlighted in publicity? So these are all the things associated with the symbols. When we say power structure, it would include that how is power distributed in an organization? What are the core assumptions and beliefs of the leadership? We have to investigate that and we have to see what are the strengths and weaknesses associated with it. How strongly held are these beliefs? Either they are idealists or pragmatists. What are the main power blockages to change? So these are the main aspects related to the power structure. Related to organizational structures, we'll be talking about mechanistic and organic. ways of managing an organization. I'll be covering its detail in the next slides. How flat hierarchical systems are in the organization. How formal or informal are the structures? As I told you, formalization, centralization, flow of communication, chain of command, span of control, lines of authority. These all things are to be investigated. And do structures encourage collaboration or competition? These are all the investigations you need to launch for organizational structures. And remember, in internal audit related to your course project, and obviously its major part would also be posted in your FIP, you need to conduct all these things in internal audit. When you talk about control systems, what is most closely monitored controlled aspects? As I told you, you have to provide the list of feedback controls, feed forward controls, concurrent controls. Is emphasis on reward or punishment related to control mechanisms we are talking about? What controls related to history or current strategies? And are there too many or too few controls? So these are the things, the major questions. We can use more questions as well, but these are the major questions, major areas of discussion when you talk about cultural audit. And we are discussing the concept of the theory of cultural web as developed by Johnson and Scholes. There is another model to investigate the culture, which is a very starting level model. And this model, you might have studied it in your previous courses. This model talks about the 7 dimensions of organizational culture, which may include attention to detail, outcome orientation, people orientation, team orientation, aggressiveness, stability, innovation, and risk taking. So these are the 7 dimensions which can elaborate the organizational culture as well. For example, in relation to attention to detail, it says degree to which employees are expected to exhibit precision, analysis, and attention to detail. When you say outcome orientation, we'll be talking about degree to which managers focus on results or outcomes rather than how these outcomes are achieved. When we say people orientation, degree to which management decisions take into account the effect on people in the organization. When we say team orientation, it would mean degree to which work is organized around teams rather than individuals. Related to aggressiveness, it says degree to which employees are aggressive and competitive rather than cooperative. And when we say stability, it means degree to which organizational decisions and actions emphasize maintaining the status quo, that you are either change-oriented, adaptive, flexible, innovative, or not. And obviously, related to particularly the aspect of innovation and risk-taking, it says degree to which employees are encouraged to be innovative and take risk. And based upon these 7 dimensions, we have to see that either we are operational in high context culture or low context culture. But in our course, you need to focus upon cultural web as the course requirement. There can be so many other models to study the culture. And for your own orientation, I have given another model. This is the tree model of culture, in which the culture is divided into 2 aspects. Either you talk about surface culture and then you talk about deep culture. When you talk about surface culture, there can be language, dress, art and music, food, gestures, personal space, holidays, religion. These are all the surface culture which are visible, demonstrable. And when you talk about deep cultures, relationships, attitude, work ethic, negotiating style, time, values, communication and learning style, methods of decision making, these are to be investigated. So there can be other models of cultural investigation as well. But as I told you earlier, that you have to focus upon cultural web in your internal audit. Now the next step, the third step in your internal audit is management function audit. So far, we have talked about 2 audits, two steps in the internal audit. The first one was resource audit, and then we talked about cultural audit. Now we are moving towards the third aspect of internal audit, and that is management functions audit. So functions of management consist of 5 basic activities: planning, organizing, motivating, staffing, and controlling. When you talk about planning, it would include your mission, vision, values, your objectives, your strategies, current mission, vision, values, objectives, and strategies. And you have to conduct the audit of all these things. You have to do the audit of your mission. You have to do the audit of your vision. You have to do the audit of your values. You have to do the audit of your objectives. You have to do the audit of your current strategies. So you have to do your planning function audit. Once the planning function is done, you reach at the outcome of planning, and the outcome of planning is a plan. And according to that plan, organizations needs to organize themselves. So according to our plan, now we need to organize our organization. And when we talk about organizing, we are concerned with 5 W's: who, when, what, where, why, how, who. So one is ending with W, but still it is part of your W's. So in organizing, we have to organize the organizational setup according to the plan. And as a result of organizing, as an outcome of an organizing function, you get a structure, which would be according to the plan. The structure, which would mean physical outlook, departments, and hierarchy. Now, once the structure is with us, we have to move to the next step, which is related to motivating and staffing. That according to the structural detail, according to the plan, now we have to hire the people. We have to staff them. Okay? We have to take the human resource inside. And once the humans are hired, so there it would be the culture development. And once the culture is developed and the humans are hired, they should be motivated to perform the work, because we need organizational outcome. So at the end of staffing function, we get a culture, and at the end of motivating or leading, another word for the motivating can be the leading, and at the end of the motivating and leading function, we get the performance. And when we use the word performance, it would mean 3 things: productivity, profitability, and satisfaction. So these are the outcomes which we have achieved through humans in a particular structure according to our plan. And once the outcomes are achieved, we move to the 5th function, which is controlling. And in controlling, we would see that either we have to re-energize the system or we have to re-engineer the system. Okay? Now, these activities are important to assess in strategic planning, because an organization should continually capitalize on its management strengths and improve on its management weaknesses. Now, how to conduct this management function audit? Please join in our 3rd Zoom meeting immediately. Thank you.